Oh buddy, Andy here again, another video that was actually going to be a blog post, but talking to a couple of people on Twitter about the winter and the weather and all that type of thing, I thought, I know, I'll actually turn it into a bit of a vlog. As some of you may know, and if you live in Britain you'll know, that we've got quite a harsh spell of cold weather over here at the moment, and it's actually affecting the whole of Britain. And actually, to show you exactly how bad it is, or how the extent of this, I'll actually put a picture in now. Hopefully that picture gives you some idea of the widespread effect that this sort of cold weather is having. As you can see from that, it's the whole of the UK that's sort of suffered, I suppose. Yes, I know that the weather here isn't as bad as it is in other places, and actually where I am, we haven't had too much. We've only had a couple or so inches of snow further inland, and not very much further inland. They've had considerably more, and in some places far more than that. And I know that last night the temperatures went down to under sort of below -20, and as usual, the news reports, the radio, the TV, the newspapers are going completely overboard about this and going mad and saying that it was only 2 degrees warmer here yesterday than it was at the South Pole, and colder than Moscow, and all these sort of stupid things and quotes and comparisons that they bring out. It's the summer in the South Pole. Okay, we're going to get penguins wanting to sort of come and seek asylum in Britain or something like that, or polar bears migrating down from the north because it's going to be more to their liking here. I don't see that happening. But it's opened up a whole debate about climate change. Everyone's saying, well, if this is climate change, if this is global warming, bring it on. There's a big difference between weather and climate, but maybe that's a different argument for a different day. And of course, everyone's now saying, because what happens here in Britain, for those of you who live abroad, especially for those of you who experience these type of winters on a regular basis, and that's the point. Here in Britain, we don't. Yes, further north, in places like Scotland or maybe even the north of England, they get to more extreme wintry weather more often, especially in the Scottish Highlands and that. They have skiing up there, etc. But down here, especially in the rest of Britain, especially down here on the south coast, on the West Country, that type of area, we don't get this type of weather at all. Over the past few decades, the chances or the times we've actually had an extended period of weather like this has gone down and down and down, and that the winters have become a lot warmer. They become a lot wetter generally, and usually if we do get snow, it lasts for about a day, if that, turns to rain, warms up, and away it's gone. This has been a concerted burst, I suppose, a spell of very cold weather which is set to continue for a bit longer. So the country grinds to a halt. We only need a couple of inches of snow and the trains grind to a halt. They stop running the buses, the schools close, and all these things. People can't get to work or don't bother even trying to work. And as I saw a tweet yesterday, if you're skiving off of work, or have been over the past few days, and you've been out there enjoying yourself building snowmen and tobogganing, I hope you haven't put any pictures on Facebook. Have a think about that one. Another aspect. But of course, people are saying now, well, we're running out of salt for the roads, and we can't cope with it. We haven't got snow ploughs. The reason for that is because we don't actually need them. The chances of us having a winter like this, or a concerted spell like this, as I said, that lasts anything more than a couple of 3 days, are pretty remote. They're saying this is one of the worst spells of weather that we've had for 30 odd years, or during a generation. The last time that I remember anything like this was around about 1987, and there's your argument. That was 22 years ago. So why do we need to spend lots and lots of money for an eventuality that isn't going to happen probably for another 20 odd years? A government minister happened to say yesterday that if we wanted to get the country right up to speed so that we could grit all the roads, we could have all the roads snow ploughed and all the side roads and everything like this dealt with properly, we would be paying at least £50 per household per year extra in tax. Now, you put it in those terms, and most people think, yeah, that's not bad, it's only about £1 a week. But then you have to think about the other eventualities. A few months ago, we had very bad flooding in certain parts of the country, not across the whole country, but it was especially across the western side of the country, and down the south we had a lot of rain as well. Some places were very, very badly affected, especially in places like Cumbria, etc. And they had floods which they classed as 1,000-year events or 100-year events, and people are saying exactly the type of thing, we should be doing something to stop this, we should be doing something to prevent this. Once again, they only happen every 100 years, every 1,000 years. Yes, these things are happening more now. The extreme weather that we're getting, whether it be the cold weather here, the rainy weather, the windy weather that struck in Cumbria in the south here as well, and across the whole of Scotland and the west part of the country as well, western part of the UK, throughout the summer, one of the wettest summers that they'd had, or periods that they'd had for a long time. For an example, even down here in the south where I am, somebody told me the other day that it rained every day for 21 days, and I could, not continuously, but it rained every single day for 21 days. That's nearly a month, and it seemed to go on forever and ever. But once again, those eventualities are becoming closer together, because that's what climate change does. It's not weather like this. Climate change changes things over long periods, and weather events become more and more extreme, whether it be the rain, whether it be the snow that we've got in the cold weather, or whether it be hot summers as well. Another thing that's come along, we're getting hotter summers and things like that. So what do? Do we prepare for all of them, or just we let things carry on and just take them as they come, not spend too much money, and muddle through as best as we can, and just say, right, we'll just put this down to a couple of days here and there, hope that it doesn't go on for too much longer, put it down to experience, because I bet it's not turkeys voting for Christmas type of thing. People aren't going to sit here and say, yeah, I'll pay £50 for that extra, but they'll also have to pay £50 for the flood defences, £50 to stop the trees blowing over or the electricity pylons coming down if it's windy, or £50 to stop the droughts in the summer when the reservoirs run dry. It's never ending. You have to live in a certain way. We have to accept that where we are, it's different. We live in a changeable climate here in the UK. I was just having a chat, as I said, on Twitter with a couple of other people who live in different places. Somebody who lives on the west coast of America and has a different life there, but they suffer in a different way. They have endless droughts, they don't get rain. They say, oh yeah, we'd love to have a bit of snow, we'd love to have the rain that you have. They have the forest fires and things like that, and they have to put up with that type of thing. Other people live in very, very snowy areas, which they're used to this type of weather. It's minus 20 odd most days or whatever, and they have feet of snow at once rather than just a few inches like we have. But they're geared up to it. They have to spend that money because that's the way that it is every single year. But another point that came out was about the way that people's characters maybe are influenced by how the weather is. If you live somewhere that's incredibly snowy or something and you know what that winter is, there must be a certain mentality that you have to sort of knuckle yourself down, batten down the hatches, so to speak, because you know what's coming and you have to change your life, especially if you have a reasonable summer and you know that that's all coming. It's a bit like a bird and a mammal or something hibernating for the winter time. You get used to it and you have to live with it. You adapt to what you're doing. So does it change your character? Does it change your sort of outlook on life? Do you get morose, so that sort of seasonally affected disorder? And then you've got the people who live in warmer climates. Do they have to adapt to the way that it is in the summer? Having been to places like Spain where it's generally a fairly good climate all the year round, but in the summer it's 90 degrees every single day. Does that get you down? That's what I'd like to know. Maybe I'm lucky in that I live in a country which has a certain amount of seasons. Yes, those seasons are sort of tending to blend into one. But what I like, as much as people might moan about the weather what it is now, at least we're having some real weather. At least the seasons seem to be doing what they're supposed to do. And if that is global warming, then that's not too bad at all. I'd like to have hot summers, colder winters, and maybe the rain in between that we need to keep it all going. Maybe there's a bit of a balance there. That's only one country or only one part of the world. I understand that, and it's probably different elsewhere. So, love your opinions. That if you live in one of these places that has regular extremes of weather, do you think that the character of the person or the character of the people that live there is influenced in any sort of way? Maybe maybe they're more, a British character is changeable, because that's the way it is. We can have 4 seasons in one day, and we can be nice one minute and then snappy the next minute or something like that. And the weather must influence you. I've seen it here. We see it in the summer. When the sun comes out, people generally are happier. When it rains, people have got their heads down and all this type of thing. It has an effect on your character, and especially if those bouts of weather go on for too long, it tends to get you down. The weather at the moment is nice and it's great. It's cold. There's snow on the ground that's sticking around. For the first couple of days, everyone's excited. You know, you go back to your childhood and what do you remember of all that type of thing, and children love it. But then the novelty starts to wear off. So if you live in a country where that novelty isn't a novelty at all, because you know what's coming, it must affect you in some way. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Anyway, as you can see, Ted is he's over that way, isn't he? He's over there, so he's all wrapped up. Got his hat and gloves and all that sort of stuff on, for those who are interested in that sort of thing. And some people are for a strange reason. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.